Welcome back to Cambridge Film Festival Rewind, a look back at some of the greatest films that we've shown at Cambridge Film Festival for over the last 40 years. Thank you for sticking around after the film. Stefan, Georgiou, director, co-writer of Dead Cat. When was the last time you saw the film?
It must have been a couple of years ago. Somebody, it was screened locally, and I went along and kind of cowered in the back and watched it through my fingers. And but actually, I surprisingly enjoyed it, which is quite nice.
Did you think at the time? I don't know. It's always strange, isn't it, revisiting something that you've put so much into? Like, did you think, oh, I would have done that differently, or I would have changed that, or not?
Absolutely, because you progress in your career, hopefully, and you learn to become better at your job, and you obviously look back and think that you could have done so many things better. But there's also a charm about watching something that you did at that point, and you don't want to be too hard on yourself. You watch and you go, actually, we made a film. We all came together, and it was a very, very difficult project to kind of put together, but it was made, as I said, it was made with a lot of heart and a lot of effort, and I'm really proud of it. Actually, I'm really proud of that.
So how did it all come about? What were the origins of it? So you wrote it with Sam, who also plays the character in the film. You guys have worked together writing on various short films. This was your debut feature film. So what's your memories of kind of sitting down and writing it, and then working to fruition of it?
Actually, writing it with Sam was one of the most enjoyable parts of it. I remember, many writing sessions and just laughing a lot with him as we were getting it together. I have really, really fond memories of it. And, the project was always started with an end date in mind. We started the project, hadn't written a thing, and just said, listen, we know these friends of ours are actors. We've got lots of people who we know who can help us. This was in January, and we said, listen, we're going to shoot it at the end of the summer. Whatever money we raise, the script has to be done by then, and we will set the train in motion. And there was something about that. There was something about the energy of that, the mental of that kind of drove us through. It's wonderful to not have to ask permission to make something. I think a lot of the times you apply for funding, or you have to wait for money to come from somewhere. And our mindset at the time, perhaps naively, was very much, we're going to make it regardless of any of that. And there's something wonderful about that, I think. So
did most of the cast know you? Did they know each other before?
Yeah, the core guys, so Seb and Tom and Johnny and Sam, we were already close friends. So that friendship was already there. And to some extent, we wrote it for them. We knew how they spoke to each other, and we knew the kind of the banter that they gave. And so that was embodied into the script. And so that helped. And we had to cast for a few parts, for sure. But, where possible, when you're making a film on that budget scale, it was all about friends of friends, and not just my friends, producers' friends, actors and their friends. And there was something really wonderful about that experience, where it didn't matter about the money. It was very much us saying to people, we're going to make this film, you can stay home and wait for your agents to call you, or you can just come and be part of something. And if it sucks, no one will see it, and you don't have to worry about it. And if it's kind of half good, then maybe you'll be proud of it, And I suppose what that also gave us was the impetus to make something that they would be proud of. When you're not really paying anybody, you don't really have much to lose other than your dignity. So all you have to go on is trying to make the best film you possibly can, and that's what we tried to do. And it was a real team effort to do that, I think.
I mean, some of my favorite scenes are the four male friends in the cafe, and just it feels very natural, like their jokes and their conversations and what they talk about. How similar are the actors in real life to the characters that they play?
Elements of them, I guess. People often ask about Johnny, who plays Marco. You know, he's dare I say, a toned down version in the film. But I mean, you know, he's you know, the truth of it is that they're all guys with you know, their own kind of individual personalities who have a lot of heart and a lot of humor running through their characters. And the fact that they knew each other just meant that there was an already established rapport that we could play on. And that really does serve as the structure and the heartbeat of the film. And it's very exciting as a, you know, as a director who, when you're sat watching those scenes, it's you know, it's kind of, it's a pleasure to watch, you know, because you think, oh, actually I love listening to them, and I love the useless conversations that they have. You know, they're kind of slightly meaningless, and but they're fun, and that's what we wanted the film to be.
And for you and your own personal story, like, how much from your life and from Sam's life when you were writing it, how much of your own personal experiences did you put into the story?
There are definitely touch points through the film where Sam and I would have conversations about what was going on in our lives, and they would definitely serve as platforms for us to kind of build upon. So, I mean, I'd say that there are definitely moments that feel like they are plucked straight from our lives, but they've also been embellished, and they've been kind of played around a bit and stretched in different ways. But maybe the DNA of those ideas are still there, I think. So that's, yeah, so that's definitely, which is nice. I kind of feel like when you're making a film, you don't really have a choice. Like, somehow what you've written and who you are just goes into the film. It just kind of comes out through some weird form of osmosis. You know, it's kind of, I think it's because you are effectively making a series of micro decisions, and when all of those decisions are made, it comes out as some form of expression of who you are.
And so, as your debut feature, do you have any memories of thinking, bloody hell, I don't know what's going on here, like, I'm in control and I'm not sure what I'm doing? Or did you feel like, were you quite confident about the whole project?
Was I confident? I mean, I think you have to have a certain level of confidence when you're doing something like that, because you're kind of driving the train, and no one wants to be part of a project that they don't feel like there's some sort of confidence behind it. But I certainly remember there was a point where, and it was quite early on in the shoot, where I thought to myself, there was so much going on that I thought, I have to stop caring what people think of me, because I was certainly directing the film with a feeling of, I want people to like me. And I got to a point very early where I thought that it was ludicrous, and that immediately had to end. Otherwise the film would be a disaster. You know, I think that the best way I can serve the people who also happen to be my friends in this film is to make the best film we could, you know. And I think the minute I stopped worrying about that, that was the time that I started to focus on what the film could be, should be, you know, and what we were trying to achieve. And I think that was quite an important moment for me.
Oh, that's interesting. I think, yeah, that's because I'm sure on one hand, having friends, people you know already, must have been a real benefit, because you don't have the initial formalities to go through. But then on the other hand, yeah, stop caring about being liked. That's, yeah, a good lesson to learn, I think, in the workplace sometimes.
It really was a lesson to learn, you know, and it's a double-edged sword. You have the gift of your friends being there who support you no matter what, but at the same time, they're putting themselves, you know, they are the face of the film, and actors can sense if they're in something that's not very good. And I mean, they might well have sensed that while we were making this, but you know, they were kind enough to never tell me that, and I think that was also really important, you know.
Yeah. So the film screened at the 2013 Cambridge Film Festival. Do you have any memories of that screening?
I do, and actually I have one really key memory of it. I remember doing a Q&A. I remember there being people there, and it was a really wonderful screening. But I remember coming out of the screening, and a young man came up to me and just told me how much he loved the film and how much it meant to him. You'd only just seen it, and I'd never had that before. And you know, I'd never have someone watch something and be moved by something. It obviously resonated with him in some way, and that was wonderful. I have no idea who he was, and I've never seen him since, but for some reason I just remember him walking down that kind of that slope outside the screening room and walking towards me, and just being thankful. He said thank you for making the film, and that just really stuck with me. I think, but you know, possibly the other memory is that the festival was so supportive of me. You know, they've always been incredibly supportive of Dead Cat as a film, and my work in general, and I'm honestly forever grateful for it, because you need festivals. I mean, I'm just lucky that I have a festival as prestigious as the Cambridge Film Festival that support you, but you know, to have the opportunity to screen your feature, a debut feature at that, to an audience, you know, meant an awful lot to me.
Brilliant. And seeing as you and I are chatting now, the cinema that you refer to is closed. All cinemas are closed. We're in lockdown. Have you been spending time watching a lot of particular films, genres, directors? Has any film made a real impact on you during lockdown, watching it at home?
I have been watching some stuff. I haven't been watching as much as I wanted to, because I'm writing quite a lot, and because I've got kids, I tend to just try to write in the evening, because that's really the only time that I have. So I can't watch too much, but I loved Normal People. I loved very much, along with the rest of the world. I've always been a fan of Lenny Abrahamson, and I that show particularly struck a chord with me as I watched it. So I was very moved by that. And you know, when you watch things and you just think, oh man, I wish I'd made them, and then you think, actually it's probably best I didn't make them, because that was so good that I probably wouldn't have done anywhere near as well. But I loved that show, and there's been others kind of dotted along the way. You know, I've probably watched more television. I've been watching quite a lot of just some Paul Thomas Anderson, some Mike Leigh, listening to some podcasts. I mean, I've been watching a kind of a range of things, really. Because just as a bizarre coincidence, so we made Dead Cat maybe about 10 years ago now, and I haven't really gone back to try and make something that was a bit kind of romantic comedy drama, other than now. So that's kind of, I'm writing something that's in a similar kind of tone to what Dead Cat was, I guess. Maybe right. Slightly more mature, I hope, and less swear words.
And are you writing that with Sam, or is this a solo project?
I'm not actually. I'm writing it as a solo project, and it's, yeah, I mean, I miss writing with Sam. That's the truth. You know, I love writing with him, but it is, you know, as we've grown older, it's become slightly more difficult. You have jobs, you have families, you have things that you have to do, and writing, I find, is about momentum. You know, you need to really keep going at it. And I mean, to be honest with you, as soon as I write anything, I send it to Sam anyway. So he's often the first person that reads things, and you know, will send me my first feedback. But I really hope that we get to write something again soon. I know, yeah, we'd love to do something. So yeah, hopefully that chance comes.
Great. And you mentioned obviously having that kind of break between writing. I mean, are you happy with the description of Dead Cat as a rom-com? I mean, I've seen it described as a quirky rom-com, but do you feel it fits into that genre?
Yeah, I do think it does. I think sometimes you hear the word rom-com and you think kind of Julia Roberts, Meg Ryan, you know, that there is a certain direction, there's a certain area of rom-com that there is, and we never really wanted ours to be that kind of a rom-com. We wanted it to be quite an authentic to us, I guess. And you know, you watch British rom-coms, and you know, a lot of them come from kind of Richard Curtis and that world, which is, I guess, the upper middle class type world, and they're wonderful films. I think ours is a poorer version of that. And maybe we always said that we wanted our film to kind of reflect the London that we lived in, you know, the suburbs, and you know, it doesn't have to be fantastic monuments and London sites, famous London sites. It's like the London that you walk past that you don't really notice. You know, you kind of ignore it as you walk past it. There's stuff in between the sites. I think that's the London that we wanted to try and get across, and hopefully we did that a little bit.
Yes, and for this new project, is it set in London or?
It is set in London. It is. It wasn't originally, but it is at the moment. Only because I want it to be made in a similar vein to Dead Cat. Really, I want it to. I don't want to ask permission to make it. I want to try and get it made. You know, regardless of whether people want to invest lots and lots of money in it or not. And London is a city that I love, and you know, it's kind of, I was born and bred there, so yeah, it just makes it that bit more realistic for me to make it there if it's set in London. You know, if people want to give us money to go make it in Italy or Canada or wherever, then I'm open to that for sure, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. So
Right. Well, Stefan, thank you for sharing a bit of background about Dead Cat, and thank you for making the film that has been part of the Cambridge Film Festival's Rewind selection. So
thank you again for watching it, for selecting it, and for wanting to even talk about it. It was an absolute joy to make it, and I'm still very proud that we all came together to put something on screen.